Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. All right, good evening. And we have our latest installment of the budget overview for 2021-2022 today, but we're going to go a little out of order, and we're going to go into our business agenda first, because we think there might be some items of interest to initially discuss there, rather than make everybody wait for the hour-long budget presentation, even though I have been assured it is going to be scintillating. So with that said, I will take a motion to actually amend the agenda to add an item 16 regarding ex officio member of the board. So I'll take a motion first. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. DiCatano. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So we have amended the agenda, and then I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Motion? Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So that adds new business item 16. We have a lot of new business today. Items C through F require one resolution for adoption. Is there a motion? Mr. Bronson, and seconded by Mr. Joyner and Mr. Nikowitz. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Moving into communications, we have quite a few communications today, and I'll ask if there is anyone to speak on to them. The first communication is a letter from Bob Cangero. It's a letter of resignation and praise. I don't usually read letters, but this one I will because it's very nice and important. Dear Mr. Ciapetta and members of the Board of Education, this letter is to inform you I have decided not to return to my positions as coordinator of the South Huntington Teacher Mentor Program and chairperson of the South Huntington Teacher Center for the 2021-2022 school year. After 52 years and 2 careers, this was not an easy decision at which to arrive. I love my work in the South Huntington School District as well. I have worked with some of the most talented and well-informed educators and consider myself remarkably fortunate. Working under the leadership of Dr. Bernardo for the past 8 years has been very special. His leadership style has been key to elevating the already high standards to which we have become accustomed. I am sorry as well that this decision comes at the beginning of the administration of my good friend, Dr. D'Elia, whom I know will serve the district admirably. I would be more than happy to mentor my replacement should you want me to. I appreciate the respect you have shown for the Teacher Mentor Program over the past 20 years. 2 years ago, you were kind enough to present me with the key to the district. I am grateful for that honor and cherish the years and the memories that I carry with me. If I can be of help to the district in any capacity in the future, please do not hesitate to call upon me. Respectfully submitted, Robert Cangero. Congratulations to Mr. Cangero, who is a true gentleman. I don't know if was he on to speak to his letter, Mr. Cyril? Okay. Next, we have a letter from Lori Bulger, who is a social studies teacher at Walt Whitman High School for the past 20 years, and she is not asking for permission yet, but kind of informing us that next year in 2022, she would like to go on an international trip. So we certainly hope to be in a position to do so. Next, we have a letter from a resident, Erin Meyer, who is making a request to the district for the establishment or the reestablishment of an assessment of gifted and talented education program for the South Huntington School District. And I believe she wants to address that letter. Is my belief correct? Okay. She had said she was going to read it, but we will move along, and if she pops up, let me know. What's that? Okay.
Good evening. Are you
Ms.
able
Mayor?
to hear me?
Can you hear us?
Hi there. I can. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, a little louder, I believe, will help.
Okay. Let me get a little bit closer. Is that any better?
That's better. And would you like to address your letter to Ms. Carey and the Board of Education?
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Ciapetta, Mrs. Carey, Dr. Bernardo, and the rest of the board trustees and administrators. I would like to read the letter that I had submitted, just so that the rest of the public has the opportunity to hear it as well. Dear Mrs. Carey, as the chair of the South Huntington School Board Curriculum Committee, I am writing to you to highlight a group within the South Huntington School District Committee which is underserved by our current curriculum programming: gifted and talented elementary K-5 learners. The New York State Department of Education states that its mission is to raise the knowledge, skill, and opportunity of all the people in New York. Furthermore, the U.S. Department of Education's Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, is about advancing education equity. New York State received approval for its ESSA plan in 2018 and states, New York State is committed to ensuring that all students succeed and thrive in school, no matter who they are, where they live, where they go to school, or where they come from. If we define success and the ability to thrive as every student reaching his or her unique potential, then we are not, in fact, providing an equitable education for those students who require more challenging material to reach their full potential and truly thrive. This gap is not unique to South Huntington. The large majority of school districts across the nation do not have a formal program in place to meet the needs of gifted and talented students. However, I know that South Huntington, we are not complacent with being average. We strive to be truly exceptional. Research shows most gifted students are not developing to the level their potential would indicate is possible. Schools have a responsibility to meet the learning needs of all students. Gifted children are found in all income, cultural, and racial groups, and gifted children may also have one or more disabilities. Most teachers say their brightest students are bored and under challenge. Most teachers have no formal training in working with gifted learners. In classroom observations, most learning activities are not differentiated for gifted learners. Gifted and talented learners create more meaningful relationships with similarly abled learners. My intention in highlighting this gap in our current programming is to ensure that South Huntington is fulfilling its mission of creating the leaders of tomorrow and creating a school community that is truly exceptional in meeting the needs of all types of learners, with gifted and talented students adding to the richness of our diverse fabric. As a result, I would like to formally request that the Curriculum Committee form a cross-functional action committee comprised of educators, administrators, and community members to create an assessment for implementing a gifted and talented education, also known as a GATE program in South Huntington. Based on national research conducted by the National Association for Gifted Children and the Davidson Institute, I would like to request that the assessment include, at a minimum, the following areas. 1, program entry criteria. Research has shown that standardized testing alone is not sufficient to identify gifted and talented students. And I provide a link to research on entry criteria methodologies. 2, programming, including educator certification, sample programming methodologies that would be appropriate in the South Huntington setting, and scalability of the program. And I've also provided examples. I'll link to further examples. Funding. Federal grants do exist for the purpose of furthering GATE programs, which include the Jacob K. Javits Gifted and Talented Students Education Program Grant, which offers multi-year awards for funding GATE programs. And I've provided a link to a case study for a school district similar to ours that was awarded a multi-year grant. Additionally, under funding, potential for partnership with neighboring districts for resource sharing of GATE certified educators and or materials. 4th, potential implementation. Identify key roadblocks, provide a landscape analysis of successful GATE programs, such as in New York City Public Schools, and a timeline to complete the assessment and potentially a program pilot for implementation. Additional resources that I believe may be helpful in guiding the assessment that I have provided links for include a gifted education program checklist, a gifted education Common Core Standards and the 21st Century Skills Analysis, an accountability, assessment, and learning growth for gifted students structure, and an administrator toolbox for gifted and talented education, which provides additional data and resources. As a South Huntington graduate myself, who participated in the Challenge Center Pullout program at Birchwood School in the 90s, I know I'm dating myself, I know what a tremendous influence that program had on shaping my education, fostering my love of learning, and creating lifelong friendships with other students in the program. I thank you in advance for your consideration of this assessment proposal, and as a parent and alum, I truly value our South Huntington community and the partnership with our district in furthering the capabilities of our community. With gratitude, signed Erin Meyer.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. I'm going to refer your letter to its appropriate committee, which would be our Curriculum Council, and they will review it. I think to be clear, we're in the middle of the budget process now, so this obviously is a big undertaking. It wouldn't be something that would be, if the board decides to go in that direction, implemented for the upcoming school year. I think there'd be a lot of study needed to be done to determine any funding that's necessary, as well as we certainly want to make sure if we go down this path again that the criteria is right. Obviously there was a budgetary consideration when it was eliminated, but there was also other concerns about whether the test was appropriate at the time and whether the program was truly meaningful. And so I think those would be some of the things that the Curriculum Council would need to look at. So thank you.
Understood, Mr. Ciapetta. And I just want to clarify that the request is simply for an assessment. So just for us to spend the time as a community to understand what it would take to get a program off the ground, if it would be appropriate, and just putting pen to paper on those factors. And of course, I am at the board and the administration's disposal if I can be of any help in collecting that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have a letter, an anonymous letter, it appears, from a resident, a lifelong resident who is praising our schools and diversity. She's making a request for a person of color and Spanish-speaking female guidance counselor at the middle school. Next, we have a letter from Michael Flynn, the Chief Operating Officer of Western Suffolk BOCES. He is notifying us of the annual meeting of BOCES for April 13th and providing us information on their 2021-2022 budget. We received a further communication from Western Suffolk BOCES regarding the budgetary material. And we also received, since our last meeting, a number of email correspondence from residents, specifically Farah Misarella, Laura Flynn, Debbie DiNicola, and Jen O'Connor, regarding various reopening plans, specifically grade 6 to 10 for one, grade 8 for another, grade 8 for another, and grade 6 for another. Are either of those parents online and wishing to speak? No? Okay. Okay, with that said, we will go into our new business. Business item number 1 is a resolution to consider the return to grades to school for full-time instruction. I'm sorry for not speaking loud enough, of grades 6 and 8. Is there a motion to discuss? Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. DiGaetano. So I will explain what the resolution is. We'll hear from the board, and if any parents want to speak to it. But in the intervening time since our last meeting, as I said, we've received a number of correspondence, whether email or letters, and the correspondence was basically saying, why not bring back grade 6 and 8 when you bring back grade 11, because those grades are also isolated in their own school, so there wouldn't be the concern about bringing two grades back at the same time. And, we certainly always listen to all of our communications, and, when they present an interesting idea, we want to follow up on that. So that's kind of where we are now. So we have a resolution that would discuss and bring back grades 6 and 8 on Monday, April 12th, which is when the 11th graders come back, and then also to continue to monitor the data that we had talked about last time, school infection rates, community transmission, and evolving CDC and Health Department guidelines, with a special meeting to be held on Wednesday, April 8th, to review the data and to make sure that it's progressing in the direction that we want, and that it's safe for the 6th graders and 8th graders and 11th graders to come back on April 12th, and then to set forth an additional schedule for the return, if the data looks good, for additional grades. And so that's kind of what the Board of Education is considering tonight. We have had the return of grade 12 this week, and so far, the data that we're looking at look pretty good. We have not had all that many quarantines. It looks good, but of course, we're cautious because we have to look at the other factors around. Early this week, we saw the state positivity rate has gone up a little bit and plateaued. So we're kind of in a period of plateauing, but that's kind of the 360 level, but more granular at the district. It's been better for the last couple of weeks with very few student or teacher infections and very few quarantine cases. So that's kind of an overview. Dr. Bernardo, is there anything else you want to add?
No, we're real comfortable with the way our teachers and our students, in limited portions as we're doing it, are kind of integrating back into a full-time structure. Like you said, we want to do everything wisely, but we want to keep moving forward, because as we move forward, we offered people hope, and as long as we do it safely, that's the goal. So we'll have as per your directive and my glad cooperation with that one, we'll have grade 6 and 8 plan ready to go. We'll work on it with our administrators, with our teams, and then also be prepared on the 8th to talk any further questions arise about the remaining grades. So we're there for you. We're taking it slow and steady, and we'll fill you in every day.
I'll open up to the board in a minute, but also one further piece is that the remote learning and the hybrid options would remain for grades 6 and 8 for 2 weeks as we continue to monitor that. The 12th grade data, if you're interested, that we've seen so far, right now of the 12th grade students, we've had 60% have returned every day, 23% remain fully virtual, 17% remain on the hybrid model, which is an enhanced hybrid model, and I've been assured by the high school principal that we're making sure that the people that are supposed to be in class are on class on those days. So that's kind of the update for what the Board of Education is considering. We bring this consideration, as we said, not because we're giving the all clear and that the virus is behind us, but because we received communication that was thoughtful and made us consider that we could bring back 2 additional grades when we have grade 11 come back. So that's kind of the thought. I'll stop talking to see if yes, Mr. Bronson.
Just point of clarification. So the follow-up meeting would be on Thursday, April 8th, correct?
Yes,
Not
correct.
Okay. Thank you. You said Wednesday. Right.
Let's keep it. It's already in the resolution, so we'll keep. Other thoughts? Okay. With that, we will. What's going on? Okay. Anyone waiting to comment on it? Sorry, I don't know if that was my own ears hearing it. Okay. Nobody ready to speak? We'll take a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we do have that revised schedule, and as I said, I don't like to be a nanny, but it's very important. We have a break coming up. We want everybody to be cautious, so that we can continue to implement this schedule. I thank the board for their consideration of that.
Yeah, I think very much so. Everyone's patience with this has been tremendous.
Okay, new business, item number 2, we have a lot of new business, is a omnibus, I like that word, cabinet reorganization resolution. Is there a motion to discuss? Mr. Joyner, second. Seconded by Mr. Bronson and Ms. DiGaetano. This is, I'll describe it more fully if it gets adopted, but this is a omnibus cabinet reorganization resolution. As you know, we have a new incoming or superintendent-elect, if you will, and at this time, that created a vacancy in the cabinet, and as a result, we're looking on ways to fill that vacancy, as well as make educational decisions that will push our district forward, and also to be in the best position possible to respond to the educational challenges, and there are many that COVID is presenting us. This is a rather lengthy resolution, but there was a lot of legalese needed to be taken care of and a lot of points that needed to be made. So, does the board have any questions on this resolution? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you for that. In the midst of all of the COVID response, we've had to do a lot of other personnel moves, and this resolution, what it does is it creates a new position. It creates the position of assistant to the superintendent for elementary education. It abolishes one current position of assistant superintendent for personnel. It also abolishes the position of supervisor of curricular services. And a housekeeping matter, it puts our cabinet level positions on what's called wage and benefit agreements. All right, with that said, we have resolution number 3 is 2 confidential personnel resolutions. Is there a motion to discuss? Mr. Bronson, and seconded by Ms. Carey and Ms. DiGaetano. This is a matter that has been discussed in an executive session. Are there any questions on this resolution? All in favor? Any opposed? And with that, I have 2 very proud announcements to make. The first announcement is that effective July 1st, 2021, he's here somewhere, that John Murphy has been granted a probationary appointment as the district's new assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. Congratulations, Mr. Murphy. And a second very exciting announcement is that also effective July 1st, 2021, our own Gail Steele is also granted a 4-year probationary appointment as assistant to the superintendent for elementary instruction, grades K through 6 in that tenure area. Ms. Steele, congratulations. Was it? Oh, doctor. I left off the doctor, I think for both of you, so. Congratulations and welcome to our cabinet. We think that along with our existing cabinet members, Dr. Senimore, Ms. Propillo, that we have, and the addition of Dr. D'Elia to superintendent, that we have one of the strongest cabinets that exist out there, and we've made it even stronger now. So we look forward to all that you're going to contribute. We know it's a lot, but we also have then more work to do and to fill the big shoes that you leave at Whitman and Maplewood. So congratulations, Dr. Steele and Dr. Murphy, and we look forward to all your work with us next year. Congratulations. All right. Item number 4, confidential personnel resolution. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. DiGaetano. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 5 is the approval of an agreement for the sale of district property, Teen Center. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Joyner. Okay, this is a resolution for the sale of the Teen Center, and it's for, authorizes, the Board of Education President to enter into an agreement with 310 West Hills Road, LLC, to sell this property. And of course, whenever property is sold, it is subject to a referendum by the district voters. Board have any questions about this matter? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. And that resolution, as I mentioned, will go on for voter approval in May. And the purchase price is $910,000. Item number 6 is the approval to sign an agreement for the sale of the Central Field property. Motion to discuss. Mr. Joyner, seconded by Mr. Bronson. Okay. This agreement is, this resolution is to enter into an agreement for the sale of the Central Softball Field, AKA the property behind Staples. And it would be an agreement with Dina Properties LLC to sell this parcel and to sell it in the amount of $800,000. And with the sale of these proceeds, that also would have to go on the ballot for May as a separate proposition, and the district would be using the proceeds of the sale for health, safety, and welfare improvements. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So that makes 3 propositions that you would be voting on, each of the sales of the properties as unique propositions, and then your regular budget proposition, as well as your votes for the board candidates. Item number 7 is a secret determination. Motion to discuss. Mr. Joyner, seconded by Mr. Bronson. All right, we have an individual secret for our capital projects that we are looking to do in either the summer or in the future. This one is for vestibule construction, something that the board had talked about in the past. It was part of the Vision 2020 bond, and it would be for vestibule construction at Maplewood, Birchwood, Walt Whitman High School, Henry L. Stimson, and Silas Wood. Is there any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, good. Item number 8 is another secret determination, and this is for a Stimson Pays Lab and form renovation. Actually, just a Pays Lab. Motion to discuss? Mr. Joyner, seconded by Mr. Bronson. And these secret determinations, these are State Environmental Quality Review Act determinations that districts need to make, and as well as other municipalities and other entities when they're embarking on some kind of capital project. For all of these that we're considering tonight, they're considered type 2 actions, which means that there is no further secret review that has to be undertaken. If it was not a type 2, it might require further environmental studies and impact. Any questions on this one? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, good. And last secret determination, item number 9, motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz and Mr. Joyner. 9 is a secret determination for Silas Wood locker and casework renovations, much needed. So these would be to replace the patchwork lockers that we have at Silas Wood that are largely broken in need of repair, and to do additional classroom casework. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Moving along, item number 10 is the approval of a Western Suffolk BOCES technology agreement. I will turn that over to, is there a motion actually? Sorry. Mr. Joyner, seconded by Ms. DiGaetano and Mr. Bronson. Dr. Senamore.
So this service proposal is highlighted by Chromebook replacements for a soon-to-be identified grade at the high school, replacing old interactive boards that a lot of them used to be called smart boards, replacing the unsupported Windows 7 machines, server replacement, infrastructure upgrades for our network operations center here at the James Caden Administrative Offices.
Thank you, Dr. Senamore. Any questions for Dr. Senamore? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Item number 10 is adopted. Item number 11 is the approval. We're moving a little Eastern Suffolk BOCES Cooperative Bidding Program. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz. Dr. D'Elia.
This is an annual agreement we have at Eastern Suffolk BOCES where we want to participate utilizing their BOCES services. Usually most districts, or all districts, I should say, in Suffolk County are part of this.
Excellent. Any questions from the board? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Moving on to item number 12. A lot of business tonight. Item number 12 is the adoption of a district-wide safety plan, actually an amendment to our plan. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz and Mr. Joyner. And so this is a district-wide safety plan, actually a pandemic protocol that has been required as a result of a new law that the state passed. And it's essentially to establish protocols in the event that we have another, God forbid, communicable disease. It talks about how you would reduce your workforce if need be, how you would allow your workforce to work remotely, how you're going to provide access and storage of PPE, staggering schedules, how you're going to deal with communication and quarantine of employees if necessary. Dr. D'Elia, anything else you want to add?
No, that it would just be added to our district-wide safety plan on the website, and we're required to do so by April 1st.
Okay, good. Right in time. Any questions from the board? Okay, very good. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you all for your work on that, very important document. Item number 13 is a request to remain in South Huntington. Motion to discuss. Mr. Nikowitz, seconded by Mr. Joyner and Mr. Bronson. This was a matter discussed in executive session. It's a request to remain in South Huntington till the end of the year for a 7th grade student, a 1st grade student, and 2 1st grade students, rather. I'm sorry. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And moving on, item number 14, memorandum of improvement between the district and the Paraprofessional Association. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, and a second. Mr. Joyner. Dr. Centimore, can you give us the overview?
Yes, we're very proud and pleased to request the board's approval of an agreement with our Paraprofessional Association, which also represents our teaching assistants. Their association has ratified the memorandum of agreement, which is in line with the terms and conditions discussed with the board during exec session. This is a fair labor agreement that also recognizes current pandemic conditions and provides a good structure moving forward.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Dr. Centimore. Does the board have any questions on this memorandum of agreement? All in favor? Any opposed? All right.
I'd like to also thank the co-presidents and their representatives from the Paraprofessional Association. It was an honor for Dr. D'Elia and myself to work with them during this process.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all your work on attaining this. Appreciate our ability to have continued labor peace, which breeds success. Item number 15 is recommendations to the placements of students by the Committee on Special Education, dates listed January, February, March, and Committee on Preschool Special Education, dates listed February and March. Motion? Mr. Joyner, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, resolution is adopted. And we have one add-on member. It's a resolution for a consideration by the Board of Education of an ex officio member. Is there a motion? Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Nikowitz and Ms. DiGaetano. And this was in response to a request from a Walden High School freshman. I'll say his name because he deserves credit. Mr. Jaron Smelian, and he had requested that the district consider establishing an ex officio student representative, and it is actually something that's permissible under the education law. And what it would be is the student would serve as an ex officio member of the Board of Education. They wouldn't be entitled to vote, but they would be entitled to participate at the meetings and kind of keep us up to date on what's going at the high school and to give us the pulse of the student body. So if the board votes in favor of this, it actually is something that requires the voter approval interestingly, and so that would be a proposition for the ballot. And it must be a high school senior by law. And if it was adopted, the Board of Education would establish a policy and a procedure for the selection of that student member. That's kind of a summary. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so we will put that on, and Ms. McLean, if you can inform Mr. Smullian that we are very appreciative for his letter, and that he could be a history maker. All right, item number, oh, that's it, item number 16 has been adopted. Moving on to personnel, we have personnel schedules 2, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and 17, and 22. Motion to discuss. Mr. Bronson, seconded by Ms. DiGaetano and Mr. Nickowitz. Any questions on personnel? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, personnel schedules are adopted. At this point, we're going to move into our budget work session. So we've done a tremendous amount of work today, but we have also important business to continue and to get a presentation from the budget. And with that said, I will turn it over to Dr. Bernardo and team.
Dr. D'Elia, take it away.
I will, sir.
Just to let you know, what we've been doing is Dr. D'Elia and I and the cabinet are working as a team on next year's process, and he and his people have a real good handle on where we're going, and we're kind of linking that to my understanding of where we've been, and I think they've got some wonderful things to share with you this evening. So, Peter?
I know Mr. Ciapetta used the word scintillating. We're going to be very excited tonight by the time this process is over, because we have some wonderful pieces that we're putting into next year's budget that we think are will benefit the young people of this community tremendously. All right, this is our third presentation. We focused the first presentation basically on the current operating budget of 2021. The second presentation, we dabbled a little bit into 21-22. This one is going to have a major flavor of 21-22. And I'm going to turn this right away over to Dr. Senimore to go over our class sizes.
Thank you, Dr. D'Elia. So this slide here looks at our elementary, kindergarten through grade 5 projections for the next school year, 21-22. Our administration has worked very closely with the building principals. What we're hoping to be a post-pandemic year next year. We've worked very hard to balance out and have really low and very conducive class sizes to our plan to address the learning gap, also referred to as unfinished learning, caused by the pandemic. And what you're seeing in grades K through 5 for next year, again, which we hope is that post-pandemic year, and giving us a full year to respond to the unfinished learning, is you're seeing an incredible consistency of roughly 22 students per class across the K-5 learning spectrum in the 4 buildings, which we think will align very well to our current initiatives and Dr. D'Elia's vision for the upcoming school year and beyond, once again to address learning gaps caused by the pandemic.
Those are, you know, as they go through these, and I know I promised to be quiet, but as they go through these, that's a place really, when you look at the past 9 or 10 years, you know, that's a place that this board has really empowered our administration to bring these class size numbers down. And the rubber hits the road with instruction, right? You know, when you're investing in teachers and kids, you're investing in the future. So you know, that's a huge recognition of the board and the staff in terms of what they've done to really make those classes intimate and really make them work academically.
Thank you, Dr. Bernardo. And Dr. Bernardo's point about intimacy directly ties into student engagement with staff. And so certainly what we look to do at the K-5 elementary level, we are absolutely looking to do grades 6 through 12. You'll see that in this slide here, which looks at Silas Wood 6th grade center, which does a fabulous job during the course of 10 months of transitioning students out of an elementary setting and getting them ready as they're also going through the early adolescence into the secondary setting. of middle school, and you see very conducive class sizes across all subject areas. And once again, Stimson Middle School. Obviously, they're still continuing in their adolescent development, but now they are official secondary students. And this slide here looks at 7th grade. The next slide will look at 8th grade. And once again, you're seeing that consistency of conducive class sizes to help address the unfinished learning caused by the pandemic. And we'll look at the 8th grade, and you see the same thing continuing there. Now we'll look at our Walt Whitman High School. Not sure if all the numbers are aligned properly on your screen. Our printout, they're aligned. The screen that we're looking at, the alignment may be a little bit off. Certainly when the presentation is posted to the website, we'll make sure they're aligned. But I assure you that the class sizes and this theme of conducive class sizes to help address the learning gap with the pandemic remains consistent throughout. Sometimes at a high school level, you could have a singleton class, which creates a challenge within the schedule. So if you see something there which looks like a little bit higher of a class size, that is usually the reason why. And please keep in mind that while we talk about these conducive class sizes, especially for the purpose of addressing the pandemic and unfinished learning next year, please keep in mind that all of our principals, their assistants, their teams, their teachers and support staff, K through 12, are currently this year putting in place prescribed measures and interventions, which will also continue into the summer.
Okay, I apologize for that previous slide. I promise tomorrow morning you'll have an updated and corrected slide up on the website. In here tonight, we talk about a lot of codes, and now you're going to see a lot of numbers. I'm not going to speak to every number, but what I will say is that anybody has any questions, would like to see me, meet with me to review this budget, I'll be more than happy to do so. And like I stated, this will be on the website tomorrow morning. Okay, in the 1,000 code, basically, it's a general support. It's the superintendent's office, the Board of Education, our business office, and other areas. And I'm just going to point out a few things on these slides. First off, on this slide, in the right column, about midway down, you see an 82% increase. I just want to say that increase is due to money coming from a different code, which you'll see later in this program being a reduction of about 83%. So it balances out. So the reason why you see that 82% is because there's a shifting of money into codes. Okay, our instruction, 2,000, that's our biggest piece of the pie here. It's what we do, educating young people here. And as we go through these slides, we're going to focus in on some, and you're going to see some numbers increase, but next slide.
Was there,
Okay.
just a question, was there a categorization of the central storage room?
What happened was, yes, there was. We shifted, as I just explained, we shifted from another code that you'll see later in the slides, that you'll see an 83% reduction.
Okay.
So that's why there was a shifting.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wasn't sure if you were ordering a lot more paper or something, so.
We're trying to get away from that, Mr.
Yeah.
CFO.
Okay.
Okay. If you see the students, hold on. That's slide 12. Go back one, Thomas. I'm sorry. Okay. You'll notice a change midway down where you see a 1.744 increase. That's in our personnel. That's what we're going to talk a little bit about a little later in this presentation. Some of the wonderful additions we believe that will really support our initiatives in this district. So that's the reason why there's a change there. And here in the upper right, in the change, you see the technology budget has increased. We made a wonderful investment into having a K-12 one-to-one initiative with Chromebooks, but along with that, we have to be able to support all the other pieces with that to get the maximum and most optimal learning opportunities for all of our students. Okay, usually each year what we do with the acquisition and purchase of new buses, last year or this current year I should say, we purchased 3 small buses, minivans, and usually we purchase 2 large buses the following year. This year we decided that we think it's a good idea to start building up our internal fleet a little bit. I know it's only 1 extra large bus that we're ordering 3, but I think it's a start so we could become less dependent on our contractual obligations. So we're starting it. I know it's real small, but at least we're going to start heading in that direction moving forward. Now, obviously, there's a lot of functions within the transportation department between our supervisor, dispatcher, drivers, mechanics. And as I mentioned, we do have a wonderful contractual company, an educational bus. This has been their first year with us, and they've been excellent dealing with this pandemic. Like I stated at a previous meeting, we're running 2 routes within the same, in the same year, a double set of routes, and it's been pretty seamless. Andrew?
When we add the extra buses, is that to replace buses, or are we adding to, or making our fleet bigger?
Yeah, some of them are aging out of our fleet, so it keeps the fleet fresh for the most part, because we do have buses that we have to put a lot of money into to keep them going. So this helps us out, and we usually order 2. So the third one is try to help out with the less dependency on the contractual piece.
But, I think, Andrew, to your question, yeah, you pick up 1, but we have about 50 and 50. So when you think about it, if you pick up the 1 a year, it'd be 50 years, to really pick up 1. So we've looked at that at times, and interestingly enough, I think maybe the year before you joined us, there was that study. And the study basically said, no, interestingly enough, the 50 and the 50 made the most sense. Because I came right away thinking, geez, if you have your own buses, you probably save money. And it was actually a balance. So it's an interesting question.
All right. And and also just, and not to throw this at you,
No, it's okay.
I know I guess there was originally diesel buses, right? And now we're switching to more propane buses. And then I know just in the auto world, and even like with UPS, they're starting to switch to electric vehicles. Have we given, I mean, I'm just throwing this out now, but is that something that?
Yeah, that's something we're definitely going to be considering looking to in the future as it becomes more normalized. I think that will, and hopefully we get a savings somewhere down the road with that, but we actually are, looking into that. We're not ready to make that purchase yet,
Right.
but, we are, it's on our radar for sure.
Can you, I'm sorry to go backwards, on this other student services function, I noticed a large, also a big change there, if you could explain that. Page 13.
Okay, for Pillow, if you want, we're under BOCES, summer school
Yeah,
tutorial.
tuition BOCES.
Yes, this code would reflect.
I'm sorry, just a little loud, I'm having trouble hearing you, Ms. Pervillo.
This code would reflect the tuition costs for out-of-district placements.
Okay,
And based on the programs and types of support services that students would require as per their IEP to meet their educational goals on their IEP, this would reflect the increase in that as well.
okay, so this is out-of-district placements then?
This is inclusive of out-of-district placements as well as BOCES educational. It comprises multiple programs.
And what's driving the increase? Are we placing more students out of district, or were there some placements that were extraordinarily expensive?
It's a combination of the tuition rates of the program as
Okay.
well as the comprehensive services that are needed for the student to be successful within the program as well.
Okay. I would like to see a little further breakdown of that increase. Thank you.
Okay, our next codes are 9,000 codes. This is basically our debt service, benefits, and pension costs. There was a decrease, and what we did is we looked at our health costs from the previous year, and we looked to see that we were able to decrease it a bit. So that's where that came from. Some of the functions within our benefits, our insurances are located all in there. Our retirement systems, ERS, employee retirement system, and TRS, teacher retirement system, are all within the 9,000 codes. Thomas, you go one back. Yeah. Basically, we had a reduction of if you look in the bottom right corner, we had a reduction of 2.87% totally within the 9,000 codes. Some other functions within the debt service are capital projects projects that we have taken on in the past. We have bonds that we are repaying, and we do get 54% is our reimbursable aid. And also our tax anticipation notes, which really are when we start the budget year, when we start in July, and we don't really get money from the town of Huntington until January. So from that time, we have to take what we call similar to like a bridge loan that we take out, and there's interest that's charged on it, and then that keeps our functions going.
When do the state aid payments come in?
They come sporadically
Okay.
throughout the year,
Okay.
and they've been up to date, which is important.
Good. Okay.
This is just some numbers going over the debt service. In between each year, sometimes we have to do some interfund transfers. That happens typically in a year.
So that's a good number on the bond percentage going down.
Yes, it is. That definitely helped us.
Yep.
Okay, when we close the books, typically, the school year ends June 30th, but we typically don't close our books until August till we can rectify all of our outstanding bills. And this past August, we closed at about $31.7 million within our reserves in our bank. And, what we're looking at the end of close this year, June 30th, more like this is a worst-case scenario of $26 million, because as I'll speak about in a few slides about our reserve, what we plan on using to support this budget for 21-22.
And Dr. Lee, how do we determine, this is always, what's the appropriate number that we should be looking at? Because, we've been high, and then the state nails us, comes down and says you're too high, and then you go too low, and the bond rating agencies say, oh, you're too low. I mean,
I think you're caught between a rock and a hard place, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because, we were cited for having, saving up for that rainy day, and we did have a torrential downpour recently, and, that's part of the tough piece, and we want to be as fiscally responsible as we can. So to find that sweet spot is, I really believe we should have a solid savings in our bank, but to tell you exactly what that is, we don't know what state aid's going to be each year, and that causes a lot of uncertainty. And so I really feel comfortable having a solid number, solid amount of money within the bank, within our reserves, and so we can function and operate without having to decimate any kind of programs that we provide our kids.
Thank you.
Okay, our reserve, what we're planning on using in reserves is $3.6 million for the 21-22 budget. We used $3.75 million last year, so we have a reduction of $150,000 there. And in our fund balance, which is money within our operating budget currently in the 2021 school year, we're planning on using $4.5 million. Last year, we allocated $5.1 million for this year's budget. So there's, we're reducing it by $600,000. And I think I spoke previously at budget presentations that we want to continue to have less dependency. It also brings me to a new piece here about the legislative budget that hasn't been settled yet by New York State. So we're not exactly sure what we usually get at the end of March, early April. It's usually in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, and we're not exactly sure what that's going to look like. But if it's anything significant, one of the options could be to be less dependent on these reserves and to lower our reserve and fund balance usage even more so. But we don't know exactly what that number is for the board to consider at this point. Okay, the bottom right number, I know you have a lot of them on this page, but this is the budget-to-budget increase of 3.19%. One of the reasons for that increase to be over 3% is because what we did last year through some of our savings is we made some purchases in the 1920 school year and we purchased things that we needed for the 2021 school year. So that's why you see a little bit of an increase there of 3.19%. Obviously, our tax levy increase is 1.99%. And as I mentioned earlier, with the state aid, we're crossing our fingers. You know, we're hearing some things that could be positive, but we don't have any official word on anything yet. It's been pretty quiet. But we did receive a letter from Congressman Swazi's office, and they are allocating to South Huntington $5.285 million to us, part of the American Rescue Plan. And we don't know exactly what strings are attached. We just received a letter that says you're getting this money, which is great and nice, but we need to know what is it for reimbursables? We've spent close to $2.7 million within PPE, with Chromebooks. So we believe we have a lot of reimbursables already to put in. What I'm hearing from the business officials world is that that's what it's looking like, and it could last for 3 years up until the 23-24 school year, that allocation. So if that's the case, we're going to have to be wise in holding on to not spending it all at once, because we may need, as Dr. Senemo said, we're hoping we're in a post-pandemic world. We're all hoping that, but we never know what we may need to purchase in the future. But you know, it's also, my understanding is we could use it for ventilation systems that may need some upgrades. And so there's some options there, but we don't have what the final determination is, how we can utilize that $5.285 million. But it's a good thing, I want to state. So we're happy that we're receiving that, along with whatever the legislative portion decides to do at the end of this month. And, you know, we have some good things moving forward.
And the state aid number that you used in here, 3.9, is that the governor's number?
Yes, that's a January number.
Okay. And I see a TRS, we're using that reserve. Is that for the first time, or?
Yeah, we had $1 million in there. We're going to take the $1 million out. There is interest that will remain behind in that account, but that's, you know, when the dust settles with, you know, the allocations coming our way, we can see to possibly replenish some of the codes.
And what do we use that for? Is that retirement benefits, or?
Yeah, it's a subcategory of the employment retirement system, and yes,
Okay.
you can use part of that for that.
Thank you.
Okay, highlights of the 21-22 budget. We are planning on adding 2 additional elementary teachers, and as Dr. Senemo explained earlier with the class size, it's a very nice class size for next year. So I think that's going to keep, you know, as far as our unfinished learning, you know, keeping the numbers small is a positive for our kids. We have 1 additional special education teacher and 8 additional teacher assistants, and I could be more specific with that. We plan on utilizing, and Dr. Senemo, correct me if I'm wrong, for our math program at the elementary level, to see if we can, having a math lead teacher along with some teaching assistants as part of the team to support our students moving forward.
And how will they be assigned? Will they be in specific classrooms dedicated to those classrooms, or will they be kind of pushing in, or Dr.
Sure.
Senimore?
So the plan for next year and most likely moving forward is in the 4 elementary buildings to have a teacher on assignment who will be known as the math leader. And then as of right now, at least 2 teaching assistants under that math leader's direction who will have a schedule, you know, push in, potentially pull out students requiring the math intervention.
So 2 at each building for total, 2
Right,
times
but
4 gives
one of the
8.
beauties of this structure is that this math leader is also going to be a professional developer or coach. So we have, for example, special education teaching assistants throughout all the grades. This person's also going to train them in math intervention. So we're going to have a lot of math intervention going on, not just by these 8 exclusive teaching assistants based on the new model we're putting into effect.
And is the data showing you that the pandemic gap is most needed in the math area?
It's a great question, and what we're seeing K through 12 is that the pandemic has hit every grade and every discipline. We've been looking at the structure of math lab, especially at the elementary level, for a little while now, and we feel like, you know, this evolution of a math lead person, teaching assistants, and a whole lot of professional development across the board will not only get the most bang for the buck, but more importantly, will have the most instructional impact in mathematics and mathematic intervention.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And also, I'd like to, I know it's not directly related to the budget, but Dr. Steele and Mr. Murphy have been facilitating the academic recovery teams. They've been working on it, and they're, making progress and meeting with, their teams. They're coming up with ideas and how we're going to, take care of, our students and, how the pandemic has definitely negatively affected everybody. But they're making great progress, and I look forward to sharing with the board what we come up with in the next 5 to 6 weeks. Also, another very exciting piece, our technology support. As I mentioned earlier, it's great having these K-12 one-to-one initiative with everyone having a Chromebook. We currently have 2 instructional coaches. We are now increasing it for next year to 4. And basically what it does is right now we have 1 coach elementary and then 1 coach at the secondary. What we're planning on doing is having a primary coach, intermediate, middle school, and high school coach to be utilized, and with the instructional technology. And along with the instructional technology comes the back end, the technician part, as far as making sure the infrastructure and networking. We're only as good sometimes as our network, and when we're so dependent on technology. So what we're looking, and this is what super excites a lot of people. I think the principals are doing jumping jacks when we presented this to them. We're looking to have, right now we have, I believe, Dr. Senimore, we have 3 level 1 technicians that services all 7, I should say 8 buildings, this one as well. In this plan, we're looking to have a level 1 technician in every building all day, in all the school buildings.
Are these civil service positions, or?
No, this is a contracted company,
Okay.
and these are trained people that are, they know their stuff very well, a lot more than I do, that's for sure. And I think it's going to be such a benefit to support, it's nice to have the tool, but we need the support there as well. And this is really going to move us ahead. And having someone in a building all day to take care of being proactive and dealing with, any issues that may come up technology-wise is going to be a major, major benefit to our community.
Dr. DeLee, if I could piggyback that.
They have to be
Obviously-
on, I'm sorry.
Sure, I'm
They have to
sorry.
be on hand, it's supposed to be there the whole school day?
Yes, the whole school day. And obviously, since March, our utilization K through 12 of instructional technology has probably grown 4 times. And so to meet that need, our teachers have done an incredible amount of professional development and utilization of this technology. But as we know, you need that back-end support, and this will meet the need as our continued growth of instructional technology increases.
Thank you. And just one question on the coaches. I assume the coach is a teacher?
Yes, teacher on assignment.
Special assignment.
Okay. So is that 2 additional, you said you had 2. Do we have to hire 2 additional teachers, or those are existing teachers who become coaches?
Exactly. Yeah, 2 teachers that will become coaches, then we have to backfill those spots.
Okay, thank you.
We do have 1 additional groundskeeper that we're putting in the budget. Right now we currently have 4. We're a large district. Moving it up to 5, I think, would be, a great addition, a welcome addition.
We seem to be much lower than most districts our size in grounds, correct?
Correct. And this is just the total budget. As I mentioned before, you see the 3.19% increase from this operating year to next year. Okay, we did in our board meeting a little bit earlier, we are in contract on 2 of our properties, and that happens to be Central Field as well as the Teen Center. So we are in a contract now, we're happy to report, and we'll be moving forward as Mr. Ciapetta reported that there'll be propositions on the May 18th slate. And as we've been mentioning at each meeting, the proceeds from these sales will be going towards safety, security, and some infrastructure upgrades that are needed within the district.
To close tonight's 3rd budget overview, one of the main and consistent goals for 2021-22 is to strive for academic excellence. Our building-based committees, as Dr. Leah and Dr. Sinamore have shared, are continuing discussion about academic recovery initiatives to address unfinished learning and programmatic needs for all our learners. Lastly, enhancements with district-wide instructional technology support and infrastructure is also highlighted as a part of the initiatives for next year. Next slide, please. Additional information about our budget journey for 21-22 will be covered during the remaining dates, which are April 20th, April 27th, and May 11th.
And then the budget vote is on May 18th at the high school, 3 to 10 p.m. And we're expecting this, I haven't heard anything different, we're expecting this to be an in-person vote this year, or?
I don't think we've received any final clarification on the
Okay.
vote.
Okay, so either way, we're going to have a total right now, as we stand, of 4 propositions, 2 property sales, 1 for the student ex officio member, and 1 for the budget itself, as well as the Board of Education election. So there'll be a lot on the ballot, so we'll definitely want to make clear that probably be front and back, so based on that. So we'll need to make clear that people have to pay attention to all those propositions. Comments by board members? Okay. Dr. D'Elia, Dr. Bernardo, Ms. Papillo, Dr. Senimore, excellent work on this. I think it's a really strong academic budget, and it's a good plan to recover from COVID and to move us forward. So we look forward to the rest of the COVID recovery plan. Any comments from the audience as to the budget? Okay. All right, thank you. Back to the business agenda. Information and reports are listed. Committee reports, facility committee minutes are listed. I don't think there's a need for an update. We didn't, nothing other than what's already been covered. Future meetings are listed. We have April 8th, which is a special Board of Education meeting. Primarily, we'll be talking about the next steps in our reopening recovery plan. April 20th, regular Board of Education meeting. April 27th is a special meeting for the BOCES election. May 11th, we'll have the public hearing of the budget. And then May 18th is the election, and June 16th is the last meeting of the school year. Comments by board members? No comments. Voice of the resident? Assume there are none. All right, there are none. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Bronson, seconded by Mr. Joyner and Ms. DiGaetano. All in favor? Any opposed? I assume not. Very good. With that said, we are adjourned. Be well.